Well, the 2020 presidential election campaign season has officially kicked off because we now have the very first Democratic Party presidential contender announcing their candidacy, and that individual is Richard Ojeda. Now, his name might sound familiar because he actually just challenged Republican Carol Miller in West Virginia's 3rd Congressional District, and the reason why he got national coverage is because he ran a really unique campaign with ads like this.
I'm Richard Ojeda, and people say that I'm angry. Well, angry is an understatement. When I come home and I find that I got children in my backyard that have it worse than the kids that I saw in Iraq and Afghanistan, I can't accept that. When I see companies using bankruptcy loopholes to keep from paying our coal miners the pensions that they worked for, I will not sit quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been sold out. We've been sold out by people like Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and the Washington insiders. I approve this message because I am angry, and I'm ready to fight back.
So I absolutely admired him, and he certainly was a unique candidate because he was willing to fight, and he's willing to stand up to his own party, because to name drop Nancy Pelosi in an ad like that, I mean, to say it's admirable, that's an understatement. I absolutely respect what he did there. Now, if you're looking for details on his platform, well, he doesn't have much up yet, because if you go to voteojeda.com, he essentially hasn't laid out all the issues he's in favor of, but he is taking a pretty strong stand against corruption, and he's mandating that any cabinet appointee donate net worth over $1 million to charity, and the money that cabinet appointees would be allowed to make after serving would be capped off at $250,000 per year, including their pension, and this is to prevent them from being corrupt and stop that revolving door in Washington, D.C. And it will also mandate that members of Congress have to be on the same types of healthcare plans that everyday Americans are on as well. Now, what he has posted, in addition to just those details, is an announcement video, and here that is.
I'm Richard Ojeda, and I approve this message. I never dreamed that I would come home only to find children in my own backyard that have it worse than the kids I saw in Afghanistan. I spent decades fighting for this country, and now it's time to go to D.C. and defend our homeland.
This is what you all are fighting for. So make no mistake about it. I will stand with the working class citizens over all else. If they don't like it, hit the road.
So the question is, if he just lost an election, why is anyone taking him seriously? How is he considered a credible candidate? And the answer is because what he managed to do in West Virginia's 3rd Congressional District, in spite of the fact that he lost, was still nothing short of amazing, because as Ryan Grimm explains, Richard Ojeda is running for president. Ojeda, a West Virginia state senator and retired U.S. Army major, lost his congressional bid in the state's 3rd district on Tuesday, but saw the largest swing of Trump voters toward Democrats in any district around the country, overperforming 2016 by more than 35 points. Still, in a district that Donald Trump carried by 49 points, Ojeda, who rose to prominence because of his support for the teachers' strike in West Virginia, lost by 12 points. Ojeda's case for his candidacy is straightforward. The Democratic Party has gotten away from its roots, and he has a unique ability to win over a white, black, and brown working-class coalition by arguing from a place of authority that Trump is a populist fraud. He's launching his campaign with an anti-corruption focus that draws a contrast with Trump's inability to, quote, drain the swamp. So I think that the people who are taking his candidacy seriously are doing so for good reasons. Because what he managed to do in a deep red district, that's actually really admirable, and it kind of shows that if you run unapologetically progressive campaigns, or at least an anti-corruption populist campaign, you can be successful. You might not win, but you're definitely going to improve your odds. So the question is, would I be willing to support Richard Ojeda? Well, look, even though I was rooting for him in the congressional race that he was running in 2018 in the midterms, my expectations and my standards, quite frankly, they change exponentially when we go from talking about a congressional candidate to the presidency. And if we are considering him for the 3rd district, if I were in that district, I would undoubtedly vote for Richard Ojeda, and I was enthusiastically rooting for him. But in terms of him being president, Yeah, not so much. And the reason why I say that is because there's some glaring red flags that I can't get past. So as Ryan Grimm explains, Ojeda's authority and one of his greatest liabilities would come in part from his own previous support of Trump in the 2016 general election. After backing Senator Bernie Sanders in the primary, Ojeda refused to support Hillary Clinton, seeing her as an embodiment of the party's drift toward the elite. So he's right on the substance. He's right in saying that the Democratic Party has drifted away from the people and now they're just representing elites. But to go from supporting Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump, who is the antithesis of everything that Bernie Sanders stands for, that's something that I can't personally get past. And to correctly acknowledge that Hillary Clinton was the embodiment of elitism, but not see how Donald Trump was also the embodiment of elitism, that tells me that Richard Ojeda lacks something that is crucial for a presidential candidate. And what he lacks is foresight. You've got to have foresight if I'm going to support you, if you're going to be the president, and to not see that Donald Trump was the fraud that he is and always was, to recognize correctly that Hillary Clinton was the embodiment of elitism, but Donald Trump wasn't, I can't get past that. So even if I do think he is or was a phenomenal candidate, well, as a presidential candidate, that's different than him just being a congressional candidate. And in many ways, I think that Richard Ojeda single-handedly set a new standard in terms of how Democrats should campaign against Republicans. Him and Andrew Gillum combined showed that you have to fight, and that's really important, and I'm thankful that Richard Ojeda did that during this congressional race. But with that being said, Richard Ojeda, as a presidential candidate, just simply does not have the credibility or the progressive record needed to get my support. I think that if I were Richard Ojeda, I would try to run for Congress again, maybe challenge Shelley Moore Capito, because she's up for re-election in 2020. But to run for president after you just ran for Congress, I think that if you're going to win over progressives, you're going to have a difficult time doing that. Now, that's not to say that he doesn't have a great platform when it comes to anti-corruption. I think that that's a populist message that could resonate with Democratic Party voters. And look, I'm fascinated to see him interact with corporate Democrats like Cory Booker and Joe Biden. But with that being said, he voted for Donald Trump in 2016, and that's really going to be difficult for people to get past. I don't know that I could see past that. And also, he fails another one of my most crucial litmus tests. So in an interview with Ellen Nilsen of Vox, when asked if he'd support Medicare for All, he stated, quote, "I support a public option. I think we should give people the ability to buy into Medicare, and I believe if we can get that, all the other insurance companies out there would have to compete with Medicare, which would mean they would have to lower premiums and offer better benefits." Yeah, sorry, that's not good enough. To ask for a public option at this point when we have so much momentum for Medicare for All, when 70% of the country supports Medicare for All, including a majority of Republicans now, you have no reason to not support Medicare for All, especially if you're uncorrupted like Richard Ojeda, especially if you don't take corporate PAC money. That's not all. He said in a tweet that he is against abortion. Now, that doesn't necessarily tell us how he'll vote exactly when it comes to women's reproductive rights, but it's just another red flag. So he's right on the substance when it comes to anti-corruption, and I think that that message could resonate, and I do think he's a serious contender. I think that we should take him seriously, but with that being said, he just doesn't have a progressive record. Bernie Sanders, conversely, is someone with decades of progressive votes and speaking out and having the foresight to speak out against wars and be ahead of his time when it comes to issues like gay rights and whatnot. So I think that if Richard Ojeda really wanted to be successful or maybe one day run for president, he should do what he can to make his way into the United States Congress or Senate and then build up his resume. But currently, he hasn't done enough. He's been a state senator for 2 years, and he has done some phenomenal things. He's very responsive to his constituents. He supported a medical marijuana provision. But look, it's going to be interesting, right? I think that he's going to bring something unique to the conversation. But with that being said, I would not be supporting him. I don't think he's progressive enough. I hope he runs again in West Virginia for Congress, or, runs for the Senate. But I personally I can't get behind someone who is that conservative and doesn't support Medicare for all.
Subscribe if you like this video, folks. Mike's tremendous, and he's doing a really, really good job. Many people are telling me about how wonderful the Humanist Report is. Bigly.